Alright, welcome back. So let me do a quick little rundown of my setup here. I have this board. I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not for sure. But I have a board right here. It's MDF. It's just a little wider than the guitar body. And I screw it to the side of my bench. And the reason I do that is because where my bench was, I couldn't put the guitar body against the bench and have it flat because the bridges are in the way. On these acoustic guitars, the bridges are in the way right there. And so what I did was I put a piece of 1/2 inch MDF and I raised it above where the bridge would rest so that there's enough space between the MDF and the face of the bench to get that to square out. Plus I made it a little taller so it gave me a place to pad everything and then clamp it to the bench so that the body is good and solid. And I'm also, can't see this for sure. Yeah, there you go, you can see that. I also have the body of the guitar sitting on top of my stool. So it can't go down and it's clamped in there good and solid. It doesn't have a ton of pressure on it, doesn't need it. But of course I'm clamping it on the edges so that any pressure is just right on the sides, not out in the center of the body. And I just happened to wrap it in a t-shirt, put it inside a t-shirt, and then just pull the t-shirt up enough that I can do this. This piece also that I showed you on the front here, this MDF, it's not high enough to interfere with the neck extension, fretboard extension, excuse me. So I can put that in the guitar and not have that interfere with me. So I can see. Then I also taped the edges of and you can't see that of course, but I taped the edges of the neck so that I know that I'm in parallel where I need to be, so that as I'm setting this thing I can look over and see the tape edges and see that my fretboard is lining up. And so then we talked about flossing with sandpaper. And pretty much I've already, with that little bit I sanded off the heel here. And I got my neck angle the way I want it is correct. And then basically you wiggle the neck out loose. Put you don't need to go all the way up to the top of the fretboard here because you don't want to take material off of that necessarily. So I'd say from about halfway down, and then I just start, get the paper in there, snug the neck in, and then drag the paper out. And what that does then is it's fitting this neck to the body. And now I have a little bit of a gap right at the very heel over here. So I'm just trying to take enough off of this side to bring the other side into play. And it's a pretty slick system. I'm using 320. This mahogany just it sands really easily, and plus we've got that little feather edge basically because we've relieved, between the edge of the heel and the dovetail. So also, if you recall when I was talking about, it's had a little bit of a hump in the center here, and so I think that's what's keeping me up off of this edge a little bit. So between taking a little off of this bottom edge there and coming over here and just kind of hitting the middle of this. If you can't see what I'm doing is I'm putting the corner of the paper in the center over here and just pulling off that center part. So that's giving me, letting me, kind of cut directly where I need it cut, not just, it's not just pull it through the whole thing and hope that you hit a spot that works. You can be a little more intentional than that. Okay, so that's what I'm doing now. The way this is fitting in the joint here, I want to shove it all the way in and push back on the neck. I don't get a great deal of give there, So it's actually fitting down the bottom of this point pretty good. Makes me wish I just had some veneer on hand, which I don't happen to have. But I'll have to just take some mahogany and make some very thin shims, because I've only got, well, I've got two layers of tape on this side, and just one layer of tape on, where am I at? Boy, that's hard to figure out. Okay. It's upside down and backwards because my screen is flipped over. So anyway, so I don't even have any down here, so I'm just going to have a very, very thin shim here. I'm going to need to add a little bit on the top of this thing, actually, which is unusual. So I'm thinking that the original neck set wasn't that great, because I really should be having to add some to the bottom where I loosen the joint rather than to the top. But the neck is on the base side of the neck is sitting right flush on the top, and then on the treble side of the neck I've got just a faint crack there, and that's why I don't have any tape here. I'm trying to get the neck to twist that way. But then at the same time I have the original lines here which tell me that this neck has always been set high on the treble side. So it wasn't twisted into this body correctly at the get-go. So I'm gonna basically split the difference between having that perfectly onto the body and these lines lining up, because I don't want to. Well, the owner does not want me to do anything at all with the finish, so I've got to make this thing look as good as possible without any touch-up or extremely minimal touch-up. So, which is a pretty good challenge on a neck reset. Okay, so that's what's happening here. Alright, so I made some shims for the dovetail, and I have one of them glued on, this guy right here, and I'll be gluing the other one on. So I glued it on about 15 minutes ago, and I went in the house and just came back out here so I could get these both on tonight. And so I'm putting tape on this is my sander block. It kind of functions as everything. So it's not only a sanding block, but it's a glue caul, so that if I get any squeeze out gluing this thing on here, I don't end up with my sanding block glued to the heel here, or the sandpaper ruined from the glue squeeze out. And I had a couple shims that they're actually a little heavy. I think they ended up being about 20 thousandths, and I need about 12 in the thickest place. But I couldn't really get these things. Have to masking tape, super glue them down to the bench, and then plane them. And once you do that, you can't hardly get them off if you get them too thin. So I'm just going to have to work them down a little at a time, which involves putting chalk in the pocket, and then sticking the heel in and basically sanding the chalk off. So it's a kind of a back and forth process, but having started out with thinner material and having a pretty good idea where the contact points are going to be before I even start, because of my my masking tape fitting trick that I do, gives me a good idea of where I'm going before I even start. So I don't know. I don't think I'm in the camera. Sort of. So just putting it right there. I can't do that one-handed, so I'm just going to sit it down here. Over here, I'm sort of still in the camera. Not too close. There we go. So, got the shim where I want it, approximately. So, get that pretty much held in place with this this little tapered block, angle block, and then put a couple clamps on it. So discovered that if I go around like that, I can catch that, and then there's another one at. I'm going to go over the top and catch it like that. Let's see, maybe like that. All right, it's got me, got that wedged in there good and snug, and just let that dry, and I'll be back out tomorrow and we'll start fitting this neck. So, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how late it is before I even got out here today. It's just insane. It's like 4:30 in the afternoon. And I didn't work today. Well, I hiked and I did the yards, and then we did lunch, and then we did some other crap, and here I am finally. Oh, I had to clean the car up. So I'm just pulled that out of the clamp. You can see it's got a little squeeze out, and it's a little long here on the edge here, so I got this in my hand. I'm going to just clean this up and then test fit it. All right, so got the glue squeeze out cleaned up, trimmed everything up a little bit, and try this the first try in there and see how awful this is. It's pretty big, so I don't know, too much dark. Hold on a sec. All right, I got the little flashlight sitting right there, and I think you can see that gap is pretty big. Let's see. See how big that gap is. I think it might be, it's a third of a fig bar thick there. What did I do with the other part of that thing? Oh, there it is. Yeah. Okay, well, okay, so I'm down to 1/8 of an inch, and I check it on both sides of the neck, so I know I'm coming down square to the top of the guitar. And I've been, I'm wiggling the thing side to side. It feels tight. I'm wiggling it up and down. It feels tight. Not pulling up on the heel when I push it forward or up. And as far as my alignment, down to where I had the top of the body marked, it's sitting really good. So I can just continue to do what I'm doing and just work it straight down. So, but I'll just, I'm doing like 10 or 20 strokes with the sandpaper. I'm also taking the chisel, using it much like a scraper, and just scraping down, down the dovetail with that. So let's go on out to the other end. So I've been coming down here. Like I said, either you can't get right up into the top notch here corner with the chisel, so you kind of have to have it on an angle. But I put it on an angle and I just drag it like a scraper. And so I think that's 5. I try to just do the same thing on both sides because, like I said, right now it seems to be going down straight and everything is where it needs to be. And so I'm just going to flip it around, and now doing it on the left side isn't as good as the right side because I have more coordination with my right hand. But I think that was pretty parallel all the way back over here. And you know, the reason I use where is it? There it is. The reason I use the masking tape to begin with is so that I have an idea how thick the shim has to be. But like I said in the last segment, it's, you know, just I can't get that veneer that thin with it. I just tear it up if I, you know, because you got to stick it down to get it thin, and then peeling it back up. I gained a fuzz on that, and so it's, yeah, and it's pretty even. So I'm just gonna keep doing that and bring it on down in there. And once I get within a 64th or so, I'll just start chalking the joint so I can make sure that I'm going to get the inside of that joint correct. One thing to realize in this process is that very, very, very little up and down movement constitutes a ton of side to side movement in this regard. So in other words, I have to take off a lot of material on the tenon here to get it to come down in elevation or closer to the top of the guitar. It's just the way it is. It's a really good joint. You know, if you get these things fit really well, the glue is, just keeps it there while you're banging it around, because it just about stay in that slot pressed in if they're fit properly. So in other words, the glue's not filling any gaps. It's not making up for a poor fit on a joint. If you were using epoxy, you could get away with that. But on regular glues, you're not gap filling. You need very little film in there of glue to actually hold the thing in place. And so you got a really good joint. It's just going to be bomber, because this is an indestructible joint. Really, it's just a really great design. All the way back when they started doing this. Somebody thought about that long and hard, came up with a really good process. It's designed in such a way that it's not like you got a really long slow taper and you have to get all that fit perfectly and you're driving a lender. So it gives you really, once you're just an 1/8 of an inch or 1/16 of an inch out of your joint, it's free. And when you pull it in and out of the joint, you have a lot of clearance until it tightens up. But once it's tightened up, you're perfect. So anyway, that doesn't make any sense, I'm sure. If I can think of a better way to describe that, I'll interject it here. All right, I am down to 1/16 of an inch gap here between the body and the back of the fretboard, and I'm going to double check that again right here on the camera. And yep, I am parallel there. And I'm also going to check that I'm parallel to my tape on the face here. And now my visor is getting in my way. Looks a little off on that side. This side is right on. Yep, okay, so I'm good there. and so I've been started chalking it, and I'm just, the same thing. I'm just pushing the neck. You can't see that. Let's see here so you get the full picture. Okay, so I'm taking the neck and I'm pushing it side to side, or this with the string lay, right? Just to see if I have any movement here one way or the other, which would indicate that my tenon might be a little loose on one side or the other. And so, and I've just squeezed it in with the clamp. I'm not really seeing any movement there, so I know that's snug. Now I want to push forward a little bit this way to see if I can lift the heel here off the body, which would indicate that my dovetail is a little open right in this area. So, and again, a little bit of movement there. Okay. To the point where this isn't just popping out of here from wiggling it, so I have to give it a bit of a tap. Have a padded block, same little block I use for sand. This blocks get used for lots of things, clamp blocks. Okay, so for right now, I'm not sure you'll be able to see that. Let me get my light. Oh, there we go. And now you got glare lighting from up there. Okay, you can see that line of chalk. The interesting thing is it's on the inside edge of the dovetail, or the, toward the neck heel, but it's pretty uniform all the way from the top to the bottom. Already know that I'm snug up top because I couldn't get any movement out of it, right? And then so I got the same sort of thing here, and again it's showing on the inside edge where it's rubbing, and then it kind of goes to the middle on the heel end, but I had up and down movement at the heel, so I'm not going to take any of that chalk off the heel here or on this side, even though it says it's rubbing, it's moving, so I don't like that. So you're still good on that. I did put a new piece of sandpaper on my block, and I have been using the chisel as a scraper also. But so I'm going to just concentrate on this upper half on the inside of that. Now my block isn't perfectly square to this this joint right here. So what happens is I can push against the heel, and it will give me more pressure on the inside edge here of the tenon, so I can sand that way. And plus, I'm just going to lean on the front end of the thing so that I don't sand off down here. I could put a piece of tape on the block to keep me from digging in this, but I'm not so close that I'm worried about fouling anything up at this point. Once I get closer, if I'm worried about it, I would do that. Same thing here. I'm just going to lean it into the heel, and so it puts more pressure on that point of the sandpaper, and then I'm going to lean it up a little bit. Just get this upper inside corner sanded out. And this is slow going, folks. I've done a little bit of just meandering around the shop, so it hasn't been a solid thing since 4:30, but it is now 6 o'clock, and I'm still a 1/16 of an inch out. So that'll give you an idea how long it takes to do this, going back and forth. I'm going to put some fresh chalk in here. Oh, that's some extra dust. I have tape on the top of the guitar right here so that this bar doesn't mar anything up. looks like it's down good in the joint. Give it a good squeeze. And then do it all again. Okay, now let's see about side to side. Up here, it's feeling pretty good. I'm not getting any, the whole guitar's moving. Not getting any movement there. I'm going to push forward here. I'm not getting any movement there now. So once again, I'm at a place where everything seems to be going down good and it's coming down parallel. Everything's going the way I want with the exception of a fuzz there that I want to kind of tip that neck a little bit. Like I said, I double check everything. And when I'm talking to you, I'm not thinking as clearly here. But yes, I still need to get that thing to push over a little bit there. So I am going to concentrate for a second here on this side and see what that does to me. I'm still, shy 16th away from the top. So like I said, I've got a lot. It's actually a lot of room to make adjustments in the way these joints work. So that's what's going on. And I am pop this out of here again. And this side is the one. And I do have really even and almost the full width of the piece here, the depth of the tenon, chalk coverage there. And I got chalk coverage just down on the bottom and a little bit up on the top on that inside. So I'm going to leave the bottom alone. Going to try to leave the bottom alone on both of these, and then just take a little extra off of this treble side. And I'm just going to keep fiddle farting and see what happens.